Next item on the agenda is an ordinance amending Chapter 66, the offenses and miscellaneous provisions, Article 5, relating to minors of the Code of Ordinances, and there's all kinds of other citations relating to it. Mr. Manager?
In short, this comes out of the police department, but I think this is a real interesting policy initiative for the board to consider. The public, obviously the board is aware that in March of 2008 we put together what was called the Crime-Free Housing Ordinance, and it was a program aimed at helping maintain or upgrade the quality of life in our community. And I think that we've seen some real positives with that as relates to rental properties in our community. One of the things our police department has seen, while the chief may have a zero tolerance for any number of infractions that break laws for crime-free housing infractions, we're seeing repeat offenders for juveniles who are carrying out criminal activity and eroding the quality of life in our community with our hands pretty much tied to do anything with them, given the Cook County court system. So this concept, and the chief will further talk about it, may be the way that we can hold parents or guardians accountable for the actions of those kids under their legal purview as the next way of hopefully upgrading the quality of life of our community, and then holding some folks accountable for the actions of the kids that are the minors that are in their review. Chief, if you would walk the board through where we got this from, what we're hoping to do, and then answer any questions that come up.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. This is basically to cover, as the manager said, those houses that are not rentals, and it's come up at every neighborhood meeting for the last several years. People have talked about this house or that house, and several examples would be there's houses in the south end of town. I'm not going to give the addresses for obvious reasons because the offenders are juveniles, but the parents own the house. And in both these cases, these ones in the south end of town, juveniles in that house have been arrested over a dozen times for serious crimes of robbery or residential burglary, are not held in custody by the juvenile system, but yet there is no way to drop the other shoe on these because they're not rental houses. And they are quite frustrating not only to the police department, but certainly the people in that neighborhood. And I would say that some of the constant complaints at neighborhood meetings, along with emails to the manager and to myself, what are you doing about it? But we have a situation in both these where parents have basically told their children they can only keep you for 6 hours, just don't say anything, then call me when it's time to come and get you. And there we sit till the next time. So again, the frustration level for that, there needs to be something, parents need to be held accountable in some cases in order to get their attention. It's kind of somewhat sad that it's come to that in our society, but we're all well aware of it, especially at the neighborhood meetings with the frustration level of the rest of the residents. This would give us a bit of an ability to be able to do that, is the hope. This has come out of several other towns. The county of Kankakee has a very aggressive similar ordinance that they're using, and they're using it quite effectively. The village prosecutor, Jason Danelian, and the village attorney combined to put this together to make sure that we were covering everything we had to cover, and to make sure that everything we're doing has not been banned or outlawed by the state statutes or been thrown out in court already. And this is where it's come from.
Has, just maybe the attorney can, have ordinances of this type been challenged in court?
Yes.
And they've survived the challenges, just like our crime-free housing ordinance has, et cetera?
Exactly,
Okay.
with the specific definitions that are contained in the ordinance.
Yeah. Okay. And Chief, just for clarification, is it a case of where individuals have been arrested or convicted that would trigger the enforcement action against the parents?
Arrested.
Arrested. Is there and in the definitions, are there a minimal number of times that the arrest has to occur before it triggers, or?
It can trigger automatically with an arrest. There doesn't have to be necessarily a minimum amount of times.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether, I mean, does that make the criteria somewhat arbitrary?
I think it's very similar to what the crime-free housing is now. I mean, we've determined, because of the standards of the village and the standards of the neighborhoods, a zero tolerance on burglaries. If, you know, you have a person living in your resident, and you're the landlord, and they've been arrested by us or another municipality for the charge of burglary or other serious offenses, armed robbery, handgun incidents, that's a zero tolerance. Again, how the crime-free housing is written, we could technically, for very minor offenses. We don't. I mean, this is not, that was never the purpose of that, nor is it the purpose of this.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I guess that would be my concern would be that we not create a situation. I have all the confidence in the world in the people who are running the show right now, you and your officers, et cetera. But nobody can anticipate what's going to be around 20 years from now or 10 years from now and who's going to be running the show. And I would want to make sure that we don't create a scenario where somebody who just, you know, has it out for somebody and they've been arrested once, and maybe there really wasn't substantial material to back up even the arrest, but they were arrested, and then here's enforcement coming along. I mean, I think there has to be something
I see
that
where you're going with
protects
this.
us.
Yes, there is an additional provision that says that the parent or person in charge of the minor who has supervision cannot be held liable unless the minor is found guilty of the underlying
Okay,
offense.
okay,
So
okay,
I understand where you're going.
exactly,
But
yeah,
the
okay.
parent still has to appear no matter what
Right.
on an
And-
arrest.
And that part, I think, is
Yes.
very good. That,
Yes.
you know, I just, you know, sometimes, you know, I've seen this over the years where something has the best intentions in the world, and all the people who are applying it at the time that it's codified, you know, are going to deal with it honorably, but you cannot anticipate what somebody, and that provision, I think, answers my
Yes,
concern in that
yes.
regard. Comments or questions from the trustees about this? Trustee Kopachinski?
Chief and Paul, we pass this tonight. Does this then apply to some of those homes already where there have been problems, or does this only apply to problems moving forward?
I would have to think only moving forward. We certainly can't go back to get that's what's happened in the past, unless I'm incorrect, Counselor.
That would be correct. You'd also have to be concerned about double jeopardy with charges.
But if I understand you correctly, some of these situations, it's highly likely they would be repeat offenders and would have another thing coming up, given their history.
Which is the reason why we like to get this passed.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, any other questions? Trustee Brandon?
Thank you. Chief, and you said Kankakee was the other community that has this ordinance?
It's another one that we took some of the things that we have, we incorporated some of the things that they had.
And did you talk with them in terms of enforcement and how, easily it is or is not to follow through with?
Deputy Chief McNamara did most of the footwork on this, and he talked to several people down there who are running the program. And again, it's Kankakee County, not the city of Kankakee. And they were very pleased with the process, and they were also very pleased with the results they're getting from it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Trustee Kopachinski?
I have one more. This passes tonight, and the signatures go on this tonight. Is this in effect tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll add to Trustee Brandon's question, Lincolnshire, the village of Lincolnshire also has an ordinance like this on its books.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, then this item will be on the agenda for action at our regular meeting.